So delighted to have Appadurai and of course Umesh Kagade, who's joining us for the first time. I met Durai a few weeks prior to Drupa when HP Indigo put on a grand show at Dusseldorf, and now we are meeting post PrintPack in 2025, almost a year and a half later. Lots and lots of new things that we are planning to discuss, and of course what HP Indigo has been doing over the past few months and what they endeavor to do over the next few months running into 2026. So first and foremost, welcome Durai, welcome Umesh. Question is of course related to PrintPack. I know super busy show for you. So what was it that you did which sort of ticked all the boxes at PrintPack?
Mr. Ramu, I'll actually take this in three ways. I'm not only going to talk about PrintWeek. Sure. The last time we met was before Drupa. Yeah. After Drupa, three big things happened in India for us. Okay. One is a big flexible packaging conference called the Elite Plus. Then happened the India Label Expo. And then the PrintPack. So for me, all these shows have a purpose by itself, right? And for us, I think the overall story of digital is becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. We saw this in Elite Plus conference. 1,000 people, everybody is glued onto the chair, finding out how digital is transforming an industry which is otherwise dominated almost, I would say, 99.5% with conventional technology. And we made, I thought we made a significant difference. And from the time to now, the number of inquiries that have come in, conversations that we're having, have been far exceeding our expectation. Label Expo India, again a game changer for the label industry. Every Label Expo has been, becoming better. This time, the audience part, obviously, it's more filtered. But again, people who come to these shows now, from the earlier times, what is the price to what are the applications? I think there's a lot of story there. And finally, the PrintPack, which is possibly the biggest show that happens in our country, attracts a massive amount of people. And today, again, the conversation that people have in PrintPack is much beyond what is this technology about. Because I think today you have technologies where you can sit at home, get inside the machine, get out of the machine, get into the feeder and get out of the stacker, right? So, but I think the conversations are around what new applications, what are the things that we can do. For us, there was a big milestone that we celebrated in PrintPack. We announced the 25th installation of the B2 digital press, which by itself is like we dominate that market. The market being 27 presses, we have 25 B2s there, which is great. And then we also installed a press in Bihar. We made an announcement, which is again going back to saying the type of cities that we are installing the presses. It's no longer restricted to Class A cities and metro cities. I think we are going to tier 3, tier 4 cities, and even cities like Patna, which is making us really proud. I think PrintPack for us, I think 2-3 important messaging. First, I think we're finding our sweet spot in the general commercial printing side. We were very strong, dominant player in the photo industry, but on the commercial, we are now making sense. We made some 2 announcements now on the general commercial printing side with the 100K and the 120Ks that we've launched, which is, I think it's going to go up and up and up. So that for us is, an outcome of PrintPack. We made tons of commercial players who are struggling to take the business to the next level. So for us, that was a big plus. And so was the label business. And label business is continuing to grow for us.
So just, a follow-up question to this, because it's interesting. You were saying the type of customers, and of course, price is no longer the only thing that they discuss. So I'm also curious to know what is, obviously the quality of conversations improved. So what kind of conversation? I mean, just so that one also gets a sense of what the emotion and the vibe in the industry is, number one. And number two is that in terms of being prepared, this is something, I mean, we've been hearing across the board that people come better prepared. Whether it's test trials, whether they understand these sort of, even the price index matrix of a particular engine, etc. So in what are the sort of, insights you've been picking up during your conversations with customers?
Yeah. A few years ago, it used to be unit costs, or the cost of investment, and then the unit cost. The cheapest guy wins in the market.
Correct.
That was the only, that was the perception that at least people were giving to us by the question that they were asking. But today it's not so. Today I think printers are becoming much aware of the changes that is happening at the end user level or the brand level.
Sure.
Because brands are no longer, there are still some brands which pit one against another with reverse auctions, but today there is a group of printers that I know
Yep.
who do not participate in any kind of reverse auctions because they say, look, this is very toxic for the industry.
Yep.
And going back, if Shah Jahan had floated a tender and given the contract of L1, Taj Mahal wouldn't have been this nice, right?
Right.
So people understand this; they
Yeah,
live by it. So L1 is not the only thing anymore.
yeah.
It's about total packages. It's about sustainable business practices.
Sure.
And what used to be the cheapest element, the element that was always taken for granted by, sorry to say, printing community, like any other
Of course.
businesses, the labor component is changing drastically. Ramuji, I actually I read a survey in a city like Bangalore. What is the competition to labor that could be employed in the printing press? You start thinking what could it be, and then comes the answer. It's Swiggy's and Zomato's which are actually competing with the labor that might be working for a printing company. Because from an actual learning perspective, the number of hours perspective, whole environment, standing up the whole day, I think people are becoming more aware, right? Which all contributes to, okay, how do I make my business better? And it's not a choice of digital versus analog. I think it is digital and analog.
Of course.
Because at the end of the day, I think what my profitability would matter to me, how I cater to my customers would matter. I think those are the quality of conversations that are changing, and we see it every day. This print pack, I was also happy. I at least met 20 people who brought their children as in adult children.
Nice.
For me, that is a massive change. I mean, this is something which the industry has been longing for. The second generation joining the business. I would have had 20 conversations every time. How much ever I am busy, if there is a father-daughter duo coming, I would just jump out of the meeting and spend time with them. Because, it gives you pleasure. This is where the industry is heading to.
Right.
We're very happy with the input.
Yeah. The other thing is, of course, something HP has been very good, HP Indigo has been very good at is, in a way, sustaining again a conversation and an engagement with brands, customers, and doing it in multifold way. So two questions. How many of the brand managers or the brand product engineers or whatever you call them these days, how many of them did come to Label Expo, Print Pack, and of course Elite Plus? I know there were quite a few of them. And again, the same question: what is sort of going on, and what is the churn that we are getting a sense of from that community?
Brilliant. Okay, so in HP we we have a department.
Yes.
It's called the Market Creation Department.
Yeah.
Because selling digital printing, Ramuji, today you would know it's a very hard thing to do in a country like India because you're fighting everything which is cheap, right? Unlike Europe, where the cost of labor in let's say Australia is $35. This is $1 which is the cost of labor in India, right?
True.
In Sweden, it's possibly $45. Right? So it's not easy for somebody to do a business of selling digital presses in a country like India, unless I create a market. How do I create a market? Is only by giving the education to the brand. So we have a department called the Market Creation Department, and the people who work there are called Customer Success Managers. Basically, how do you make a brand or a existing PSP who is invested in your technology successful? And that team has been doing some marvelous job in terms of meeting and educating people. I'll tell you some of the things. I even in the last podcast, I was talking about our alliances with the coffee board and the tea board. Now we possibly are with about 14 such associations in India. As we speak today morning, we signed a big MOU with the CII equivalent, women CII equivalent in Andhra Pradesh, with the Andhra Pradesh government as well. Right?
Nice.
So what we are doing is, on an average, today we're meeting close to 26, 27 people every single day. Basically startups, absolute small, medium, micro businesses, and telling them this is what you can do when it comes to packaging. This is what you can do when it comes to market collateral creation. How do you change your brand and stuff? And for us, our intent is to reach to 25,000 people in a year, which is a very tall ask, but we're getting there. This is one-to-many conversations. It cannot be done one-to-one.
Of course.
So we're also building beautiful infrastructure, which we are now we're calling it Center of Excellence, and the first Center of Excellence is going to be inaugurated in the last week of March with Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore.
Okay,
So
nice.
this is a center where you walk in. Basically, it is hosted in the place where all the startups meet.
Nice.
Every other week, and it gives an access to people. They can, with the click of a button, know the story of each of those applications which are there. With the click of a button, they can get in touch with somebody on a video call with HP or one of the converters who can actually fulfill the job, right?
Nice.
So it's like a 360 kind of a
Experience
solution.
center,
Experience
incubation center. Nice.
Incubation center. That's exactly how we are calling it.
Yep.
We're doing it in IIM Bangalore. We are replicating this in IIM Ahmedabad very, very soon.
Okay.
On top of what we're doing with the coffee board, the tea board, the Kerala Startup Mission, and the Andhra government and the Tamil Nadu government. We have already established some kind of centers there.
Nice.
At a very large level, we are working with Atal Incubation Center at a corporate level.
Sure.
They are trying to give us access to about 6,000 of Atal Incubation Centers that exist in the country.
Sure.
As packaging professors, and we love this designation
Nice.
of packaging professors, and it's really taking us to the masses, which is exactly what we want. We believe India will 100% become the startup capital of the world.
Yeah.
Today there are 150,000 startups, registered startups,
Sure.
published by the government of India.
Yeah.
People who are not registered, that could be equal number.
Got it.
But this is where the focus is.
Yeah.
This is what's going to change India as a country and the printing community as well.
So again, follow up, packaging professors, I kind of like that. So at the convocation ceremony, where the brand guys will come out and, all these wonderful people whom you've trained, what kind of digital print mindset ideally would you want them to have? I know this has been something that you've been at for almost 2 decades, the struggle, this, because we are embedded in certain traditions, certain habits in the printing industry, lithography and, all of that. And obviously now you're riding the, effort of whatever you've been doing and, you're reaping that in a sense. So the question is basically twofold. Is there a shift that has happened in this digital print mindset? Again, you alluded to it in our previous podcast that post-COVID, certain things happened. And second is, of course, the kind of new voices that are emerging, who are, inhabiting this space and the kind of conversations they're having, which are related to digital print.
Yeah, absolutely. See, for us, our mantra has been only one thing.
Okay.
25% of the for a product to succeed or fail, there could be many reasons.
Yeah.
One of the reasons could be packaging.
Yeah.
Right? And today, with surveys, many surveys that has been happening, they found that 25% of a product's failure could be because of packaging.
Yeah.
It could be relating to the cost and other challenges. Now, digital is built on 4 values only. Just 4 values, very easy to remember.
Okay.
Which is one, nobody should force you to get more than what you want.
Got it.
Which is basically no MOQ. There is there should not be a minimum order quantity when it comes to printed material and packaging material.
Nice.
And today when brand starts understanding it, they start using, they're starting to use their money wisely.
Yeah.
If I have a startup, today most of the startups, 99% of the startups are bootstrapped. They have no money. They're obviously trying to get money from everywhere.
Yeah.
But that's a time where a printer has been telling them, you print material that would last you for the next 3 years. When you do not know what the next quarter is going to do in terms of sales, right?
Sure.
So I think people are getting the concept that there would not be a minimum order quantity. That's number one.
Yeah.
And number two, again, because of the generation which is forcing, the consumer generation which is forcing, people are not willing to wait that 6 weeks and 8 weeks time as well, right? I mean, they want it really quick. I mean, not possibly the next hour, but at least in the few days that they want. So because people have started understanding the concept of time to market is money today, right? So you respond to competition faster.
Sure.
And 3, with variable data and personalization, which could be in promotion, as well as counterfeits and fight, because the growing e-commerce is also leading to a lot of challenges for brands in terms of counterfeited products, and people are now taking up the challenge of fighting counterfeits through better quality packaging, track and trace, and another solution. Last but not the least, today the younger generation of entrepreneurs want to do something which is a sustainable business practice. They want to make the beginning of doing and telling people that this was package sustainability, and these are the only 4 values that we are trying to sell and educate people on, and that's worked brilliantly for us. So at the convocation ceremony, as you say,
nice.
People come back and say these values,
right?
They see it on videos, and
right?
We're showing it to a lot many people. We're pretty thrilled about what's happening there in the market.
Yeah. No, but I think and obviously you are instrumental, you and, obviously your colleagues and contemporaries in the industry in terms of what was a theoretical abstraction 20 years ago to now people actually believing and doing in this. I'm going to flash back to 2023 where Umesh, you made a presentation at the Elite Plus conference at the Geo Center, and then a year later, Durai, you were to about 1,000 odd delegates, you were up to about 2,000 delegates. And what was interesting was, here was HP Indigo making a pitch to the, flexible packaging icons in a sense, the main converters and the, stakeholders in that community. Obviously, there's a shift in the way you are having that conversation. What I want to really understand is what is the pitch that you are hoping to convey to this entire fraternity, and what is the differentiation that, say for example, if I am an owner of a CI Flexo or a high-end Gravio machine, why do I come to you?
Yeah. So why do people come to us? How do we differentiate? Is for the basic 4 values that I was mentioning about digital. Right. But actually going beyond this, I have a very strong feeling that, we're pretty happy with what we've done, but, there's obviously scope for more on the sheet fed business and in the label business. But I believe flexible packaging business is going to be the fastest growing business for us. And the last year for us was the proof enough for what's happening in the market. Because the amount of, if I may use the word, the atrocities that happen in the conventional production process in terms of abuse of resources, the cost which goes down into the soil, I think we will make a lot more sense there, considering the time that the industry is used to, the turnaround time that is existing. And our story is very simple. We're not fighting the analog. It's a country of 1.5 billion population. Anything which is produced is anyway sold. And it's never going to be shortened. We understand that. But we also understand the engines of growth which is coming in and the challenges which people are having. Our success has come from what we call as digital disruptors. These are standalone companies which have no CI Flexo, no Gravure whatsoever, who are the guys who are naming 1, 2, 3, 15 customers in a small street. These are the customers that we call as digital disruptors. And what we are doing today is each of these digital disruptors are catering to approximate customer base of 2,000, 2,500. You can never imagine catering to such a large base of people in the flexible packaging business. You always had these 5 big guys who used to control you. Maybe you had 10 more or 20 more. That was your customer base because you practically did not have the possibility. But when you're suddenly catering to 2,000 people, it's a game changer for the converter as well, because you're spreading the eggs all over the place, not in one basket. You're never going to be threatened by your end customer, saying, I want a discount, otherwise I'm moving away, because he's not the one who's giving you 20% of the business. He's possibly a 1% business contributor. Even if you have 100 people, that's a great business to be in. And most of the digital converters in this space, digital disruptors, do this business cash upfront. And so, Ramu,
that's huge.
That's huge. And I'll tell you the most important thing in the business. What we hear from our converters is after doing the business in advance, after getting the job done, the brands come and say thank you for doing my work, which is something which you don't see in the industry.
Not heard of.
You're always being pushed to price. I think this is a story that we're telling the bigger guys. And that's enabled by the technology, because here it's just a plug and play technology. The amount of abuse that happens in terms of the cylinder, the acid which is used in the cylinder, the amount of water which is used, everything is gone. It's just a clean, neat office which doesn't even smell. Employees are happy to work there. And that can make a lot of difference. So people today are realizing that are pushing that I don't sell the press as just a press. I give it a life. Digital presses in the flexible packaging side have become the #1 salesman for these large conventional companies. How do I say that? Because it gave you an access to people that you would have never ever serviced. Let's say it got you 200 more people. Stats say 1 out of 10 are successful. It means even if it got 200 people, you got 20 customers who are going to be successful, who will tomorrow do the long run. And they will stay with you because you offered them services when they were young and then nobody was giving.
Yeah.
So it's, see, for me, it's a combination of emotion and a little bit of technology, which is selling.
Of
And
course.
I think that's the biggest differentiator that we have today in the business.
Yep.
And people are starting to realize the story that we've been saying for some time now.
Yeah. And how are you seeing this? I mean, obviously you have had a huge success in paperboard of all varieties and grades, etc. And obviously you've established yourself, and on the Indian subcontinent, you are a very strong player and massive brand. So are you seeing this as an extension of that, or it's a reboot, literally? And in what way has the game changed in that sense?
Yeah. So just throw some numbers which will kind of put a context.
Yeah.
Last year, we just doubled our install base in the flexible packaging business.
Nice.
The entire thing that we've done all these years, we just doubled it last 1 year alone. The pages or the impressions or the linear meters of job that we're doing is growing at a triple digit in the flexible packaging side.
Nice.
Right? So these two statistics, for me, it's, it's a one-dimensional measure. If I just talk about number of machines,
of course,
that could be based on our skill set.
Correct.
But if the pages in the market are growing in triple digit, and that's something to say. And then again, tied back to what's happening in the industry with the number of startups. Ramu sir, I read a statistics which I was just blown away by. It was absolute music. The statistics said, you have the generations of people, the millennials and the Gen Zs, right? 60% of the Gen Zs who got surveyed as to what do you want in your life, what do you want to do in your life, 60% of them said, I want to own some kind of a business at some point in time in my life.
Okay.
For me, this is like, wow.
Music.
It's pure music, because any business that you're going to do, it would involve packaging.
Of
unless
course.
You're in fintech, right?
Yeah.
That's where future is looking extremely
bright,
rosy and bright for us.
Yeah.
And that's why his target is also going up.
Right. And I'm also trying to understand, one is, of course, you've been sort of stressing on startups and, new companies or companies being much more nimble, but are there any other companies which are in the traditional space, FMCG, food, all of that, Alcobev, etc., who are also re-strategizing or re-looking at this space in a different way? Because again, that's something we are picking up, but you'll get a better sense, because obviously.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I only said the half the story
Half
with
the story,
the startups.
Yeah.
But the other half of our install base is with the big people, right?
Yeah.
With the big guys like the Swiss Pack of the world, who are like real, really big companies in the gravure space. You have companies like Champion Packaging.
Of course.
You have Balaji Multiplex, which is one of the newest, and the big daddies like Hutamaki.
Sure.
Right? So all of these conventional players also do it, right? And they're the ones who take it to the large brands, like the FMCG brands, in terms of campaigns which they want to run. And sir, again, I'm a big believer that small is the next big.
Small is the next
small
big.
is the next big.
Okay.
So I can tell you the small fish. I have a beautiful diagram which I can actually show to you at some
Right.
point. You can, I'll share this slide and you can show that. That's a beautiful visual representation of this.
Right.
The small is the next big also tells you many things. If you see the acquisitions that are happening in the FMCG space, Tata buying 1, 2, 3, 4 companies, Tata buying Soulful, Tata buying this, ITC buying some other company. You see this almost every day in the news, because now the ITCs believe that if I don't buy this startup, he's going to trouble me tomorrow, right? Or if I buy them, I increase my portfolio. I think that started happening. The small fishes were trying to eat the big one. The big ones have to start swallowing the small ones. I think this is a cycle which is not going to end anytime soon. And this is where both the big converters, the conventional converters who are big gravure people, are catering to the big brands. And making them to do the campaigns.
Nice.
Because, not a lot of companies thought about campaigns, because they said, okay, this market belongs to us. We don't need to do any innovation. But today those companies are doing innovation.
Correct.
Because it's relevant for them to be alive in the market and keep communicating with their consumers.
Sure. No, well said. Just one question, and then Umesh, I'll come to you. Yeah. When you talk to a lot of young people and you ask them aspiration, what do you want to be? Somebody wants to be an astronaut, go to the moon. Somebody wants to be the next, sports star or football player, etc. Will there a time come where, you ask someone and he says, hey, I want to be an NPD in a packaging company. That packaging has got the swag to do that. And it does, because it plays a huge part. There's aesthetics, there's science, there's functional. There's so many aspects to it. This is the fun part of the question. The other thing is when we are having conversations with brands, and I'm sure again you realize that in that pyramid, in the pecking order, it seems to be pretty low in the scheme of things. Although as part of a larger brand building campaign, etc., it should be on the top, unless you have a CEO or a chairman who's enlightened, and who's driving that mission personally, and therefore packaging plays a critical part. So again, the question to you is, thanks to a lot of what you're doing and of course the others in the industry, is there a possibility where you have bunch of people coming out of IIT, IIMs, or what have you, NIDs, etc., saying that, hey, my aim in life is to be packaging developer. I mean, we'll probably get a nicer name which has more swag to it, but yes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would. I expect that to happen for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah,
But
yeah.
for which the industry needs to market itself
Better,
well.
yeah.
We shouldn't be, sorry to use the word, cribbing that we used to do all the time. It should go out. There should
Right.
be little more, less solvent in the factories. People can
Yes.
breathe better. Clean offices.
Yep, yep.
E-commerce is the way to do business.
Sure, sure.
Not getting pushed down on the credit by these big brands. And, incidentally to all of these features which I keep talking about,
Sure.
the technology of digital fits in there.
Yep,
It
yep.
enables people to do all of what we're saying.
Yep.
And I think, that's where we see packaging getting an importance in terms of career options for people.
Sure.
And I think end of the day, I think, being a packaging development manager is something great because you're giving life or,
Yep,
success
yep.
to many, many brands.
Yep, yep.
I think it will be as attractive a job like to work in a
Yep,
agency
yep.
today. I
Sure,
think, that's
sure.
what we believe will happen.
Yeah, yeah. No, good. And you're obviously in the right direction, creating the evangelists, the future evangelists for packaging. I mean, one of the things, Umesh, this is for you. One of the things Durai was talking about is, cleaner environment, green, and that, and of course the solvent aspect of it. So again, just curious to know from you because you understand, advancements in digital ink, curing, etc. So a couple of things happening in that space. One is what is transpiring with compliance, and secondly, a lot of things that are happening with primers and coatings. So again, if you can give us a sense, because our sense is that the industry has been static and nothing has moved, etc. So if you can give us a sense of what is happening in this space and in what way is it enhancing digital print performance for labels,
Yeah.
how is it boosting it better for flexible?
Sure. So before I answer your question technically,
GG.
I want to kind of also go back as in what is happening in terms of the regulations
Sure.
that government is kind of implementing in the country and across the globe also.
Sure.
Taking an example of India, I think it's a news sometime back that SEBI has mandated 1,000 top companies by market cap in India to publish their sustainability report.
That's true.
So that itself kind of sets the ball rolling.
Yeah.
So now these top 1,000 companies have to publish their sustainability report. How would that sustainability report would come? Then these 1,000 companies have to also ask their vendors, which also includes, by the way, the packaging guys,
Of course.
to submit similar reports, which then can be collated and
Yep.
later on submitted to SEBI. So this would kind of put a pressure, in a sense, a pressure, or kind of make them find a way how to kind of have a more sustainable solution in terms of packaging.
Yep.
That's where I think the demand for sustainable packaging would start coming in. There is also another kind of a, let's say, campaign that is happening in the Western countries where nowadays brands would get invoices for their product.
Sure.
But they are now also recommending that could you also include what's the carbon footprint that has been
For each
kind of,
item,
generated for this particular product
Sure.
for what you are invoicing.
Yep.
That again kinds of sets the ball rolling for many of the vendors, including packaging.
Sure.
So this is the whole kind of requirement.
Yep.
And then what HP is doing, Indigo in particularly. So if you see our technology, by nature itself, it's quite sustainable. So I'll give you kind of a small comparison as such. If a pouch has to be kind of produced on a flexo gravure or any conventional technology, then you need a lot of things that could kind of put more impact on the environment. Like
Sure.
you need to have cylinders engraved. In case of flexuroscopy, you need to have polymer plates
Yep.
developed. Once it goes to, and also in this process there is a lot of acid that is required. There is a lot of VOCs that is
Yep.
required.
Yep. No, so time, resources,
Yeah,
energy, everything. Yes.
Yeah, and then once it goes for printing, again there is a lot of VOCs in
Correct, correct.
the whole inks and,
Yep, yep.
and all of that. So this in itself kind
Contributes,
of contributes and impacts the environment. In case of HP, so our inks primarily do not contain any VOCs or kind of UV monomers and all of that. So which helps the whole technology to be to remain more sustainable.
Sure.
Here our plates are kind of digital.
Yeah.
So once you have it, just that you have to press button and it starts printing pouches. So you are not kind of using those cylinders or plates. So if you really compare the whole impact, the impact is pretty lower than the conventional technology.
Sure. Sure.
So this itself kind of tells you how kind of sustainable our technologies are.
Sure. Yeah. So again, I mean, because one is sort of, meets a lot of the people who are super specialists in gravure. So, two things come across. One is they're very fussy. They have extremely high standards for what, So, so in terms of performance, how do you score? Because obviously that fuss quotient is there, number one. And number two is just a variety of substrates that they work with, PE, BOPP, So again, if you can give me a sense of how does the compatibility transpire and how do you score, and are you able to tick most of the boxes?
Right. So probably, I'll explain the technology a bit in a short. So in most of the other technologies, the ink has to be thrown on the media substrate, and then you need to kind of dry it.
Sure.
So whether it is a solvent-based ink, you need to have the dryers accordingly, or the UV inks. In that whole process, I think there are a couple of things that happens. There could be misregistration because the stations are one after another. In terms of UV inks, if the inks are not dried properly, then again there is a chance of migrations and all of that. Which again in terms of food and pharma could be a challenge.
True.
While in the Indigo's case, all our ink registration or everything is happening on our blanket. So a dried ink film is actually created on a blanket, which is a register image, and then it is transferred on the substrate.
Sure.
So we do not transfer kind of a wet ink on the substrate. That also helps in two things. One, to have a completely register image at the first go every time. And also we can use a lot of different materials here because we are touching the material only once. So we are kind of always touching the material only once, not multiple times. And that itself kind of helps us have multiple substrate or lot of substrates to be printed from our technology. So this kind of make our technology whole very versatile. Also the imaging is of a very it's of very high DPIs. Primarily our presses have been used in the photo industry, so you can imagine the quality that the Indigo presses can bring. So it always matches the quality of gravure, and sometimes we say it surpasses the expectation of a gravure guy. So in terms of the quality, we have never seen a gravure guy asking for anything better than what our technologies can produce.
Sure. Substrates, if you can.
So in terms of substrate, as I said, since it's also always a one-touch technology, we call it as one-shot technology.
Right, of course.
So you have a freedom to use anything right from PET, BOPP, polyester, in the flexible packaging space, even PET-Gs and all. And in the label space, again, you can use a host of materials. So actually there is no limitation because there is also an inline primer in the press, which allows you to print on off-the-shelf material. And just start printing. So not much of efforts required on changing the media.
Right. I'm just curious about the blanket because I've been hearing about it for so long, and it seems to sound like the magic carpet. It's the magic blanket. So is this a variant of the traditional compressible blanket that we have for the high-end, presses?
Yeah, you can say the Possibly the appearance could be same. It's a
Okay.
resilient
Right, of
rubber-like blanket,
Yeah,
but of
yeah.
course it's a patented technology by HP.
Right,
So
right.
so that there is more than what one can see into
Sure,
it.
sure, sure.
Namaste, I want to add a little bit here
Please, please,
on the
please.
compatibility that
Yeah,
Umesh was
yeah.
talking about. Right? Eh, eh, I would say conventional is not compatible with Indigo.
Okay.
This is a trick question.
Okay.
Because what an Indigo press can do, offset can do this. Not all of the application, or rather, it's other way. Whatever offset does, I can do.
Sure.
That same Indigo can do whatever the gravure press is doing. That same Indigo can also do whatever letterpress is doing,
Sure.
whatever the photo inkjet presses were doing, whatever screen was doing. So we always say Indigos are fine one technology. It can do flexo, it can do gravure, it can do offset. Same machine. It can do whatever letterpress can do, what it can do whatever screen can do as well.
Sure, sure.
Which is where I think the power of Indigo comes in.
Yeah.
You know, Trigon, for example,
Yeah.
or Artnext or Decibels, for example.
Yes.
There's a customer called Hora.
Yeah.
All these three people, we call them digital disruptors. They do much beyond just one application. So in fact, if you really look at it, Hora, even Trigon for that matter,
Yeah.
they were initially printing labels. From
Yeah.
labels, they diversified to flexible packaging
Yeah,
using the
pouches
same
and-
technology,
yeah,
pouches.
yeah.
So from pouches, they are doing shrink sleeves.
Yeah.
On the same machine, they are also doing folding carton.
Yeah.
They are doing rigid box
Lamitubes, yeah.
packaging.
Yeah.
They are also offering Lamitube, by the way,
Yeah,
today.
yeah.
Right? So I think that one investment, multiple revenue options,
Yeah.
or one investment, multiple substrate, I think that is what is driving growth for a lot of our customers. So, on the question of media, this is my number one strength. We can literally do all applications that are possible, and that's why we call it 5-in-1, 6-in-1 from time to time. We keep changing it.
Right, right. Moving on, I mean, Drupa was an eye-opener. And we saw actually, in addition to the, the presses and the machine and the steel and everything, was AI and automation, etc. So what is the role that plays in terms of the workflow now, and what is the rate of adoption in India that you're seeing?
Yeah. See, AI, for me, I'll just not talk AI with the technology alone.
Sure.
We should look at AI as a 360 angle, in this case, in the print industry. Where AI is making a significant difference is on the design side of the business.
Nice.
So it's no longer very complex for you to, wait for that 10 weeks, 8 weeks from an agency to give you a designer artwork. I think today my son can generate some images which
Nice.
are out of the world,
Yep.
which I sometimes use in my presentation,
Okay.
just by talking to ChatGPT, right? So that's a level of growth in that space. So that's going to transform,
Yep.
especially the small, medium businesses, to fight with the equivalence of a very large brand in terms
Sure.
of design. So
Yep.
AI is going to
So
significantly
make it more
a difference.
nimble in that sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Number two, when AI is applied into the technology bit, for example, this is one of the biggest trends as a company that we have.
Sure.
Because I always say this to the outside world, a lot of companies in the printing space also have a little bit of background or little additional services on the IT side.
Yeah.
But HP is the largest IT company
Yes.
which is also playing in the print space, which gives us an enormous access to AI and stuff.
Of
right?
course.
So all our machines are connected machines. At every second, every microsecond, it is recording information. It is recording information related to a performance of the machine, the performance of the operator,
Sure.
what are the kind of substrates which are getting used, and at every hour if you want, or every day if you want, graphically produces beautiful reports
Sure.
to the user of the technology, which
Yeah.
could be our customers.
Nice.
It could be producing reports to us, and tell you exactly what you you need to do. If there is a delta between two operators' performance, how do you level them up?
Yep,
How do you rotate? How do you train people? All of these is going to come in. AI is also, we actually reverse this AI, and we call it IA now.
Okay.
IA is intelligent automation. With intelligent automation that we're doing, because of the IT background that we have, all our machines are today, we have a small feature called PPC. PPC actually stands for Predictive Press Care. All machines, mechanical machines, are prone to, fail. The parts are supposed to fail. It could be
Correct.
because of wear and tear, it could be because of something else. But if it's wear and tear, and I know in advance that tomorrow the part is going to fail, or in the next 10,000 impression the part is going to fail, I already trigger a note to my warehouses, and the part is already shipped to the customer place just in time.
Sure.
The machine goes down, boom, the part is outside, please replace it.
Yep,
Right?
yep.
And there are, technologies again, like, we have the Microsoft glasses,
Yep.
where you can, sitting at any corner of the world, we can talk to an operator in Marathi or in Hindi or in Tamil or Malayalam, and give him instruction to fix it by, by this, AI and the knowledge that we're building.
Sure.
We're building a huge repository of how we are solving problems, because at the end of the day, once you have an encyclopedia, then you solve problems faster. So I think AI is going to make a phenomenal difference. AI combined with IA, which is intelligent automation, is going to make these machines literally work 24/7, as in 24/7.
Right.
Which means more productivity, more return on investment for the users of the technology. I think this is going to revolutionize, and we are particularly very happy, proud, and enabled to use the fullest power of AI into printing machines.
Yep. And is there a minimum requirement you need to have for the operator in terms of being able to operate this, and obviously the skill quotient and the technology quotient?
Yeah, earlier we used to be very finicky about the type
Who would
of
look
operator.
at it? Yeah.
But over the years, I think somebody who can operate the basic computer,
Right, or a
little
basic
knowledge.
mobile phone actually.
Yeah, a basic mobile phone now.
Right. Yeah.
I think we're able to train. One of the things of being in the business long enough
Right.
is we've been able to build infrastructure at the country level
Sure.
to train, retrain people from time to time.
Nice.
And with the introduction of the Microsoft lenses, the glasses, I think the need and the dependency of that highest level of knowledge is also going away.
Nice.
It's making them slightly, I would say, easy to go, because
Sure.
I can see what the guy is seeing in the press, sitting at whichever location I have.
Nice.
So I think that's also bringing down the need.
Yeah. And Umesh, this is for you, because I know Durai had sort of spoken about supply chain tracking, authentication, etc. And I remember we had met at one of the conferences in Mumbai, and you were showing me a bunch of samples. So two things struck me. One is all Indian work, which was nice, and Indian case studies, which always makes me feel very proud. And the interesting thing was the leveraging of what precisely was Durai, because otherwise, if you listen to it, just that way, it sounds like science fiction. Yeah. So if you can, how is this being leveraged by these Indian packaging, creators, and being able to create these very, interesting products for, especially, things like intelligent labels for the pharma and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So again, here our technology provides very fine type of print, which some of the technology providers in the software space have kind of utilized it.
Sure.
And made track and trace or anti-counterfeit features, which can then be printed on Indigo.
Sure.
Or can only be printed on Indigo because of the
Is there anything interesting that can happen in addition to this, so that you stay one step ahead of?
Yeah, certainly. So, so there are very intricate features like Galosh pattern, microtext.
Yeah.
All of these stuffs are very easily possible. We also have invisible inks,
of
which
course,
can again create a second layer of protection. We also work with the brands or companies like Ura globally. And there are other solution providers where there's.
I want to go a little more in terms of adding to what Umesh said. Everything starts with the ink that we have.
Yeah.
The LEP has been the game changer for the industry. LEP has one thing which is very, very unique, which is the smallest size, or the regular size of my printing is 1 micron.
1 micron.
Compared to anybody who's like 6 micron, 8 micron, whatsoever, right? The 1 micron printing capability enables me to do quite a number of things.
Sure.
One on the software side, which he was talking, the simplest QR code, micro QR codes,
of course, yeah.
Galosh patterns, and all of this. On the physical side, we have invisible ink, we have different colors of invisible ink. We have the tag and things where, by a touch of a device, it can, talk and, give prompts and beeps.
True.
Beyond this, we also have things like automatic screening, which is, you would not even know where the, codes are, the scratch off inks and stuff like that. So it's always a combination of covert, overt features. We have 32 such security features that we work on, and we have a dedicated area. We actually have a press called the secure press,
Okay.
which even starts at very basic level. For example, today, one of the challenges for the brands is when they give you the job, they want to ensure that you do not print one extra copy as a printer. How do you guarantee that?
Yeah.
HP says, okay, now I'm going to solve this problem for the brand. I'm also going to solve the problem to the printer, because printer cannot, how much ever efforts he makes, he's not able to be approving this. So now we generate MIS in terms of how many images were printed, and then after the printing got over, how was it wiped out, and we give that wipe off certificate to the brand which may require it. It can be applicable in a book business, because you're not producing extra copies of the book, or it could be in the pharma side of the business. In fact, we've executed some prestigious projects. Unfortunately, it did not make it big. One of the COVID vaccines, our big customer in South, he printed with about 6 such features out of the 32 features. So I think there are tons of examples there, and India is one of the areas where counterfeit, anti-counterfeit solutions will start working.
Although all our presses can print security features, there are two types of presses, like one is brand protection and one is secure, as Surya mentioned. So the brand protection press is again, something which can do better than a normal press, and that's a press which is installed in India for the first time with a customer called as Prinova. So they are a security solution provider. Also, they do the other packaging things. So there is a start of such presses happening in India now.
And both these presses, the brand protection press and the secure press, work with the liquid electrophotographic.
Every press of Indigo works with this one magic wand. When you were asking about the blanket as the magic
So the
stuff,
the blanket.
It's LEP which is the magic stuff.
All right. But the blanket has to behave with the LEP, of course. Yeah.
That LEP was magic till now, but LEPX, LEPX is the magic of the future.
What is LEPX? Sorry.
LEPX is taking it to, see, look, when the offset guys and the gravure guys and the flex guys came and said, what, your speed is only 30 meters a minute, 40 meters a minute? We had just one engine.
Yeah.
Just one engine. We do not have 5 engines
That's true.
or 6 engines like that. Now, LEPX is basically I having 6 engines side by side. Now, the speed that I can really get to is 6x of what I am today, or 5x of what I am today. And that'll be our answer to those people who said, I needed 80 meter per machine. So we have 120 meters per minute machine with the V12. I think that's where LEPX comes in. And LEPX is a concept of integrating engines side by side. I can go forward, go backward. The possibilities are unlimited there. And that's also the power of what our innovations and R&D efforts have been.
Nice.
So LEPX for us is the future for sure.
Right. I'm just curious to know, because of LEP, the food compliance part of it, and especially things like, say, direct contact labels, etc. What's happening in that space, and how do the inks behave, and what is the degree of compliance, especially in view of whatever is transpiring with the FSSAI, BIS, all those statutory regulations.
Again, as I mentioned, our inks dry on the blanket, so that itself kind of solves a lot of challenges. How? So once the ink is getting transferred, it's almost a dried film that is getting transferred on the material. So you are not throwing and wetting on a material and then trying to dry it. In that process, what happens is there is a lot of migration that can happen inside the substrate, and eventually that can get transferred into the PP bottles, wherever it is
required.
And then eventually it can even transfer to the food or drugs that is inside the bottle. In our case, it's an almost dry film that is applied on a substrate. So there is a very less chance of migration. Also, our inks are low migration certified. So all our inks are anyways FDA and EU certified, regulation certified. It also complies with the Nestle and the Swiss guidelines. Our inks do not contain UV monomers. That's the biggest benefit. So naturally, the migration of all these elements happening into the food is pretty less. One of the case studies that has happened, and unfortunately I cannot disclose the name of the pharma brand, but probably I can disclose it to private, and you can then ask them. So they studied with few technologies in the industry, and what they figured out was their labels that were printed on Indigo, and these labels were ophthalmic and nasal drops that were printed on Indigo.
So
Had
sensitive, high
almost
degree of sun.
had almost zero migration. So now they have shifted all their volumes of this very highly sensitive products to Indigo. So that tells you how safe our inks are.
Nice. Again, I was talking to one of the largest substrate manufacturer, and they were talking about wash-off label solutions. And so two aspects to it. One is the cost component, which is that, there was this 100 crore saving, etc. And the second was, of course, the environmental benefits. And the other factor that came out was that, it was produced on a digital press that you guys manufacture. So again, curious to know, how many more of these kind of cases, because these seem to be the hidden stories, the hidden gems, which we're not sort of, we of course get carried away by the big brand campaigns, etc. But this is significant in my view. And we're not sort of, I think, shouting or boasting enough about this. So curious to know if there are any more such things that you can share with us?
Yes, certainly. In terms of case study, I would say I do not stick to the case study, but
Fair enough.
I'll tell you in generic what HP is doing
Sure.
for the sustainability part.
Yep.
So HP has been working with various organizations where the standards of recyclable material and kind of compostable materials
Yep.
are getting
Yep.
defined. And we are ensuring that our technologies can print on these materials which are recyclable and compostable.
Yep.
And when that enters into this process of recycling or composting, our inks do not interfere with that process.
Okay.
So so most of the materials that you find today are kind of getting certified for this process on Indigo.
So do not interfere, meaning what? You can de-ink them and all that, or?
Yeah, compostable. Then
Sure.
our ink should not stop it
Interfere,
from getting
yeah,
composted.
yeah.
So that's the process.
Sure.
And again, there are various other things like using a recycled material in a polymer and then getting it again printed on the digital or whichever technology. So again,
Sure.
we are working with them, and there have been a lot of practical demonstration where our customers have been using a lot of material which has a huge quantity of recycled polymers
Sure.
getting printed on Indigo and then being produced as a fine product. In fact, we have a video where we kind of print a pouch and then we recycle it, and again we use it again for
Nice.
printing the pouch. So
Okay.
it's a very well demonstrated stuff
Sure,
with Indigo.
sure.
So very safe to say if there are guidelines, very strict guideline that comes in near future, then Indigo, the users of Indigo would be very much easily able to comply with those things.
Yeah. Again, curious, and this is for both of you. I mean, EPR, is going to be sort of announced in April, the new set of guidelines, etc. Again, curious to know two things, because obviously you're playing this, significant part in the flexible packaging space. What kind of conversations, or have you got plugged into that whole, ecosystem that EPR is part of, and the raw material guys, the manufacturers, and of course some of the brands. And number two is, to what extent, I mean, these kind of conversations, especially that you can select a material which has got the, aspect of alternative material for brands. If
There is a media part,
Sure.
which is what everybody is dealing with on
Yep.
the EPR. They've singled out plastic alone most of the
as
times.
the villain,
So what Umesh was saying is, today we're working with tons of vendors who are in the biodegradable, flexible packaging and stuff like that. So we are encouraging literally everyone, and our technology presents a very unique advantage of being really media independent in that science compared to some of the other technologies which might have problems and things like that. So we naturally enable the process of innovations in the media.
Yeah.
But that's only one side of the story, Ramu.
Sure.
If you were to look at sustainability in a 360 angle on the EPR, the government regulations, today, let's compare cylinder manufacturing.
Yeah.
I visited a cylinder manufacturing plant, and they had two plants, one on this side of the road and other one 100 meters away. I asked them why. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It should be one factory. I said, no, this comes under red zone. If I were to have the full factory,
Right.
I would be paying a lot of taxes. I kept this aside.
Sure.
And then you start understanding why is it in the red zone. Then you start understanding the amount of chemicals that are used for washing these cylinders, right? And tons of this.
Yep.
And I said this story in the flexible packaging conference.
Yep.
We talk water. I believe the next war in the world is going to be fought not on petrol but on water.
Right.
I'm originally from Tamil Nadu.
Correct.
Domesticated in Bangalore. And there is a beautiful lady called Kaveri who comes in between us
Correct.
every once in a decade.
Yep.
Right? That's because I know the importance of water. Right?
True.
We use zero water whatsoever. In the printing process, there is zero water. People don't see this. Okay? Most of the digital printers, I'm not saying it's only us, but most of the digital printing devices do not use water
Sure.
compared to conventional. If the government starts seeing this, then you're talking sustainability. Please talk sustainability in 360. Don't single out media. Media, of course, there will be a lot of innovations. But finally, Ramuji, this one point. I mean, we can talk about photo, ozone damaging potential.
Yes.
I can go on. I'm not a chemical engineer. He is.
Right.
He can give you a lot of statistics, and we have a slide which we can actually show you.
Sure.
But beyond all of this, Ramuji, 11 to 14% of the printed material never sees the purpose that it was done for. Whether it is in packaging, it never comes to the supermarket.
Yep. Yep.
Some is lost in the transit. There's 5% lost at the printer level because of the wastage. I think we eliminate that side away. Prevention is the best form of cure. If 11% of your material which is going to go inside the earth or anywhere is going to be saved because I didn't have the minimum quantity that I had to print, I think that's a big service to the whole concept of sustainability.
True.
And the power consumption, you name it. I think most of the digital will qualify, and Indigo qualifies there even better because of
the wastage that you save on Make Ready, for instance. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now we have a bunch of questions which have come in from, so we sort of put a call out saying that we are going to have this conversation with Durai and Umesh, and some of your customers and also some of those who probably might end up becoming your customers have asked these questions. The first one's for you, Durai. This is about digital PS labels. So what are the key factors that you would advocate when it comes to choosing between the conventional labels and digital PS labels?
Yeah. So, see, factors, look, I told you the stats are in front of you.
Correct.
Do a Google, ask Google Mata how many startups exist. That will give you an answer where you should, what you should invest in. Things like that. And again, we're not the guys who always say, hey, our technology is the best. Yes, our technology is cost and everything, but it has a purpose and it has a limitation in terms of unit cost.
Sure.
My unit cost is we can never be cheaper. Our unit cost is very linear in nature.
Sure.
The more you print, the more it's going to cost you, right? So, from that perspective, what we're trying to say is, if you are a flexo converter who's got this 4 or 5 machines, what our estimates tell by multiple research, not only our research, multiple research, about 18 to 24% of all that you print as a flexo converter are less than 1000 linear meters.
That's true.
And to do 1000 linear meters on a flexo technology, whether it is the European brand or an Indian brand, it's a crime to do that. Right? And everybody is doing it. So let's say if a flexo converter has 5 machines or 4 machines, 20% of them are shortens. What we are saying is the day you add digital, you push that entire 20% away. So that becomes profitable for you straight away.
Right.
As a business. Second, that 20% that you pushed away means free capacity. Right? So that's where our story, whether it is flexible business or offset or in flexo, we say every time you buy a digital press, you get the favorite brand of your flexo machine free of cost because I've released 20% of your capacity.
Got it.
I think that's where the story really comes in for a PS label manufacturer.
Makes sense.
And again, digital as a purpose to produce things very economically for run lengths of 1500 linear meters or lower.
Sure.
If you're playing on time, obviously there is no competition to digital. It's instant all the time. If you're playing on sustainability, if you're doing it on personalization, there is no competition. But on simple short run, up to 1500 linear meters in PS label, we make absolute business sense. But if the PS label becomes a little expensive label, let's say for example, a clear on clear label comes in, or a wine label, textured label comes in, where the material cost becomes higher, then we would start making sense up to 2000 linear meters, because for each color, they typically end up wasting about 50 meters for each color. So 200 meters, linear meters of wastage into the cost of material will pay for the job by itself in digital, right? So
Makes sense.
it's a simple question of max. Again, it is not one versus another. It is analog and digital. Right. So this is what my belief is, and I think the factor for our customers to consider is, look at your job basket. If it is more than 20%, every time you buy a digital, you get one flexo machine free. That kind of pays for you on the day number one.
Nice, nice. And also, I mean, what you said, that your OPEX is sort of superior. Yeah. This one's a question for you, Umesh. How does HP Indigo collaborate with the raw material manufacturers, so it could be AV, 3M, Jindals, whoever, to develop new digital label solutions?
Yeah. Okay. So, of course, we work with all the manufacturers.
Of course.
And here, probably, if, this question could have been more relevant 10 years back, when we would need a material which was very specifically made for HP Indigo, and it used to be called as HP certified or Indigo certified material. But today, all our presses by default comes with an inline priming unit. All the packaging presses comes with that. So they are capable of printing on almost every material that is available in the market off the shelf. So you can just pick up any that you would otherwise use for your flexo, gravure or offset, and simply print on Indigo. So while we collaborate on many projects with these manufacturers for their brands, I mean for the end users, but today there is no specific need of any particular material that can be printed. I mean, we can print almost any material that is available in the market today.
Sure, makes sense. Good question. Good response. Yeah. Durai, this is a question from again somebody in Central India, that does HP Indigo have a plan to support small and mid-sized converters who find the investment, the capex in digital printing a challenge, and are there any financial schemes, which they can sort of take advantage of?
Yeah, so absolutely, and we understand this. We understand that Indigo's investment is pretty high.
Sizable, yeah.
Sizable, and even in the industry compared to other digital players. So, honestly, Ramaji, everybody that we meet, we're not trying to sell a machine.
Correct.
So that's where the digital disruptors for our customers, they come into this as well, right?
Sure.
There are people who have nothing to do with gravure printing, but are one of the most successful pouch producers, and they cater to even the printing community. So we're doing 2 or 3 things. One, we are constantly doing innovations to stay better, on the better side of the cost. For example, we're working with the Singapore government to get some benefits. There is a benefit in terms of free trade. We're constantly innovating in terms of producing bigger ink cans, more dense packed cans to stay on the scale of economies and things like that. We're doing a ton of innovations around the technology, consumables to stay relevant on the price part.
Sure.
We're also building up infrastructure with government funding organizations in terms of subsidy schemes, mover schemes, subsidy schemes and interest. We also have another company, not ours, but it's publicly differently traded company like Funding Arm, where HP also leases the equipment. We are also working with a ton of other NBFCs in India to try and enable them to make it attractive. Beyond this, we are also promoting partnerships in this, because one of the most successful case studies that we have till today in our business is when in Ludhiana, in Punjab, when we were starting to sell very much in the photo industry, it was very expensive. From the beginning, it was expensive.
Sure.
Right? So not that one person could afford to buy Indigo. So we actually made a consortium or promoted a consortium of 7 fierce competitors who put their hands together and bought an Indigo. And they're one of the most successful customers today, G7. They're one of the leading players. They have a couple of B2 presses, and small presses as well. So for us, we always enable. So we're not always interested in selling hardware, but the more pages that we convert onto
Sure.
the Indigos is where the benefit is. So we enable, and in places like Central India, we'd be very happy to enable partnerships there,
Sure.
set up
Yeah,
promotions, and constantly innovate on the cost as well.
Yeah, that's nice. Because G7 is a great example. Then you also, I think, are partners with probably the largest lamitube manufacturer in the world, where I think you have something like double-digit installs and maybe 5 or 6 in India as well. So, what more should we expect in 2025 and probably the next time we meet in 2026?
For 2025, like every other year,
Right.
our goals are very simple, straightforward. We want to be the company which is the best place for people to work. Us and our channels, we stay grounded there with that one big objective. Obviously, the customers. We want to be the most admired companies by, focusing on growing the pages to the customer than just selling machines.
Sure.
But now the one step forward, which has been last 3 years, is we want to be the guys who evangelize this market
Sure.
about the values of digital print. Again, to tell the market the overall cost of digital is to make a difference to the printing company and to the brand. I think,
Sure.
by working with the brand, we are giving a life to brands which would have not got good quality packaging. The people who never gave chance to a small guy,
Yep.
we want to change that situation in the market. We want everybody to be treated equal.
Yep.
In a way, call it democracy, democratizing packaging. We use all these power words, but in reality, we are making a significant difference
Sure.
to a small guy who never stood a chance with a big converting company before. That's on the brand side. And on the printing community side, I think we want to make it profitable for them. We want the technology to attract the next generation of people who refuse to join the printing businesses. These are simple goals, and with friends like you, we want to come again and again and share stories of how we have transformed either a brand or a printing company. We take a great pride in telling Indian stories. 5 years back, it used to be we did this in America, we did this in Europe, but today I think the story is about we are doing it in India. We'll continue to do it in 2025 as well.
Nice, nice. Thank you. Well said. And I mean, we are a country of storytellers and story listeners. So more power to stories, more power to print that brings these stories alive. Always a pleasure, Umesh, meeting you. Learn a lot always from you. Hope to learn, continue to learn. And Durai, thank you for flying all the way in from Bangalore for this, and all the best. So thank you. That was Appadurai and Umesh Kagade from HP Indigo. And over and out from us. Please subscribe and do all the usual stuff that you're supposed to be doing. Thank you. Over and out.